Hello everybody. Well, it's almost quitting time here, Thursday evening. I got all the grass mowed, plus I got a day's work done in the shop. Kind of mowed the grass during my dinner hour. So that way this evening it'll free me up to do another video for you. So this is going to be part 2 of projects from the past. And in this particular video, I'm going to show you a gas pump that I restored a number of years ago. And I'll show you just how bad something can look and then turn it into something that actually looks beautiful, in my opinion. And this particular pump is a 1920s gravity feed pump. Some people call them clear vision. And how they used to work is, this particular one was what they call a 10-gallon pump. And you would pump 10 gallons up into the glass, and it would show the number of gallons in the glass. And then you would take your nozzle and put it in the old car, and you just let it gravity feed into the old car, and you could see how much gas you were selling the customer. So like I say, this was in terrible condition. It was almost to the point of no return. And I brought it back to life, so I thought you might enjoy that. The other part of the video is going to be on a Kubota product, on a BX 1800, and you're going to see what I actually turned it into. It was kind of an odd request that a friend of mine had, who's an engineer, and he approached me and he asked me if I could throw something together for him with. He asked me if I could turn a Honda Quad into an ice resurfacer. And I said, well, you know, it's really not feasible. There's no power takeoff. There's not enough power for anything. There's not enough room. There's not enough lifting capacity for the ice resurfacer. So we basically went out and looked for a used BX used BX, and I found one that had 3,000 hours on it, but it ran perfectly. It was used in an airport for towing luggage back and forth to the airplanes. So I bought that for him, and we picked up a ice resurfacer, and we made it work on this little tractor, and it works quite well. That project was done probably 4 years ago now, and it's used all winter long with no issues whatsoever. And the beauty with this particular segment of projects from the past is I had little snippets of video that I took, and I just happened to stumble across it, so I'll include that in this video as well. So I'll see what I can dig up in other projects. I figure this video is probably going to take me about 3 hours to edit and do voiceover, so I hope you enjoy it. In the meantime, I'm going to get at it right now, shortly after supper, and again, I hope you enjoy it. So we'll see what happens. If you like it, we'll do a third part of projects from the past. So let's get to it. So I get a call from a friend of mine, and he tells me, "Hey Paul, I know where there's a visible gas pump for sale. It's a 1920s model, and it's in pretty good shape." Well, I drove all the way to the other community, and I found the pump all right, and this is exactly what I found. I was not pleased with what I saw, because I was told that the pump was in great shape. Needless to say, I was not pleased, but at the same time I said, well, where in Newfoundland am I going to get a pump like this? So I bought the pump, and the next few pictures are going to be more pictures of how I found that pump in the snow. Well, as you can see by the close-up picture, it still don't look much better. It was in pretty rough shape, but the original glass was still there, which was quite a surprise for me. So I figured, hey, if nothing else, I'd just buy the whole pump. I'd remove the glass, clean up the glass, and sell the glass on eBay, because they are quite valuable. But that's not exactly what had happened. Well, as you can see by the next few pictures, it don't get any better. It was a sad-looking thing, a real sad-looking thing. But anyway, I loaded it all up aboard the truck. I did find out it had a pile of parts missing. It had the main ring that's under the pump that bolts to the concrete. That was missing completely. It also had the hood missing over the top lights. And, you know, living here in Newfoundland, you just don't find these things. So I kind of had to put my head together and try to figure out what I was going to do to try to find these parts. Well, I didn't find the parts. I ended up using some other type of parts. You might find it amusing, and it actually worked out quite well. In these next few pictures, you can actually see the inner workings of the pump. It even had its original fuel nozzle or gas nozzle on the side of it, it was really a bonus to have that. So it did have a few things going for it. It even had the internal pump that actually pumped the fuel. So I was kind of happy with that too. So, you know, it wasn't as bleak as it really looked at the time. So now it was time to drag it home and see what I could do with it. So I get it home and I get right to it. And as you can see by the picture, yours truly is out in the dark, in the snow, with a pressure blaster, and I'm blasting all the rust and all the 25,000 layers of paint that's been put on this old pump since the 1920s. And boy, I'm telling you, like, it was painted red, it was painted green, there was a blue, there was a yellow, there was even another gas company's sign on it. And I'll pull up that picture next. Well, here's what I found. Luckily enough, it was a vinyl decal, so sand in sandblasting really don't work good on removing rubber or vinyl. So that's why I was able to exactly see what I found here. Now, I did ask around, and I couldn't find anybody that knew anything of this company. So there's a little bit of history there, and I snapped a few pictures of it just in case somewhere down the road somebody could actually find out or know what this was all about. But eventually I ended up scraping the decal off. I couldn't save it. So I ended up just getting into the bodywork from then on. So as I got one piece sandblasted, I used to take the just pick from the pile that I threw it on the side of the shop, and I basically just took one piece at a time. And as I got them sandblasted, I laid them in the shop, and of course I did all the body work at the same time. And of course then each piece had to be taken and fitted together to ensure that everything was going to fit by the time it was painted. I even took all the brass pieces and hand polished all the brass pieces. So in the next few photos you'll start to see some real progress with the pump. Although I have the reputation to be good at body work in the local area, I can tell you one thing. I dread it, I hate it, I really can't stand it. But it's a necessary evil when you're restoring anything from an old car, no matter what it is. If it needs body filler, you need to get it yourself in a mess. The shop is in a mess, and you're sneezing and coughing and doing it all. But once the body work is done, well then, I figure I'm on easy street at that particular point in time, because everything you do then, from the ground up, starts to really look like something. Well, most guys that restore these old type of pumps got a tendency to remove the pump, and in other cases, like with the more modern pumps, they remove the motors, and I'm just as guilty as that. We do it for two reasons. We want to lighten the load, and we want to keep the smell out of our facility where we house this stuff. But this pump was so important to me that I wanted to, historically so important to me, that I wanted to keep every aspect of the pump intact. And I even restored the inner workings of the pump. So the actual gas pump itself was all restored. This pump could be put back in service if need be. Well, remember back a few minutes ago I told you that the bottom portion of the pump was missing? In other words, the very bottom base? Well, I found a way around it, and it worked out quite well. I ended up going to a junkyard and finding a split rim off a dump truck. I took the split rim apart, and I used one section or one side of the rim for the base of the pump. It was the exact diameter, and according to the historical pictures that I found of this particular pump, it looked identical to what I needed. So that was one major hurdle that I got through. And boy, I'm going to tell you, like, I was as pleased as punch to be able to find this particular rim, because again, it was like looking for a needle in a haystack. But it worked out well, as you can see by the picture, and now the assembly is starting. Okay guys, remember the other hurdle I had? I said the top, or the bonnet, was missing off the top of the gas pump. Well, couldn't find one anywhere. And then it hit me one evening while I was sitting down trying to figure out what I was going to do. I need to take a trip to Walmart. Anyway, Kathy and I took off to Walmart, and when I got in Walmart, I took some measurements of some stainless steel pans that they had there, and sure enough, I found one that was dead on, perfect for the job. So I basically took a stainless steel pan, and I cut the holes in the side of it, and modified it, and crucified it, and finally got it all in place, and it looks identical to what was there originally. So now I was really starting to make progress. So what do you think? You wouldn't say it was a stainless steel pan from Walmart, would you? So maybe somebody is out there that are restoring these visible pumps might get a few hints from this particular little video. It worked out really well, as you can see, and now I'm in the process of painting individual parts and cleaning up the little knick-knack parts, and of course, you know, it's hard to do a restoration without putting my own little touches to it. So I ended up going in on the lathe, and I started making some brass bolts or brass caps for the bolts. So I'll show you that next. Before I move on to the brass section of it, I just wanted to point this out to you. Anytime that you guys are out there and you're putting something through a firewall, or you're putting something through, in this case, like I got the lighting system coming out through the bonnet, and I never had a grommet for it. What I do is I just take a vacuum hose and I split it down to the side, and I wrap the vacuum hose right along the outer edge, in this case of the hood, and you have an instant grommet. It works really, really well, and aesthetically it looks right. So I just thought that'd be a little clue that you might enjoy knowing. Well, here are some of the brass caps, threaded caps that I machined for the old pump. I wanted to give it a little bit of a custom touch. I didn't want to just put regular old bolts in it. After all, the thing is going to be on display, you know, and sentimentally thinking about the thing just lying down pretty well dead in the snow, I wanted to treat it with a little bit of respect. And of course, this is why I do what I do with this certain kind of things. And you'll see now shortly exactly how I utilize these caps. Here you're just basically looking at a picture of me reassembling the pump before all the body work is done, and I'm just reassuring myself that once the body work is done and the paint is done, when I go to reassemble, it's actually going to go back together. All the holes are going to line up, and that's a good practice to get into when you're restoring anything. You don't want to do all the body work and then all the paint work and find out during the assembly process something don't fit right or something warped. So keep that in mind. Okay, in this photo you'll see that the body work is pretty well completed, other than some spot putty being used. I use spot putty to get out very fine scratches or little indentations that are not sufficient or not deep enough to justify using Polybond or body filler or white lightning, whatever people want to call it. In this case, I'll use spot putty. When I use spot putty, you're getting down to the real nitty-gritty. You're getting down to the fines of it. The next step then is just to use some high build primer, hand sand, and then shoot the paint. Yeah, I know, it's one friggin' mess, isn't it? Well, back then I used an old type of Developus spray gun. Now when I spray, I use HVLP guns, and it's very little overspray, and it's just a way better system. But the picture being as it is, the pump is really starting to take shape now, and
I'm getting more excited about it all the time. A lot more excited than the very first time I saw the pump in the snow. What do you think, guys? Can you see the difference? I can see the difference. Now it's starting to look like a noble looking pump. So let's continue on and see how much better we can improve on this thing. Well, it's really neat when you're doing a project and your old dog and your wife wants to get involved in it and see how it's turning out. And as you can see by the picture, the pump is quite tall. I think it came in a little, just a little less than 11 feet by the time it was all completed. There was no detail left out on the pump. I even restored the nozzle back to its original condition, and it was a working nozzle as well, so that was a bonus. Well, guys, it's all in the details, so as you can see, we're starting to get down to the nitty-gritty. You can see the brass pieces that I machined, and they're all up around the top part of the picture, and there's a little inspection plate there just at the bottom of the picture, and that also has some brass covers as well. I even machined a brass knob for the handle, and it really added to the look of the pump. In this photo you can actually see more detail. You can see the lettering and some of the replacement name tags that's on the pump, and it's really starting to show all its details. The hose is connected now, the nozzle will be on the other side of it, and it's really starting to look like something now. And here's another example, guys, about detail. You know, if you want to do it right, you got to put up the menu or the menu board for how much the fuel cost at that particular time. And this is a reproduction part that I bought for the pump, and you can see the brass work that I used, that I made for it, and it really added to the look of the pump. A lot of people comments on it, and they like it. Well, at this point in time, the pump is just about completed. I think one more picture, and you'll actually see the completed pump. What's missing from the pump in this picture is there's a grill that goes over the top glass, and the reason why the mesh was there was when most gas stations had non-paved parking lots, and when cars would pull off the parking lots spinning tires, rocks would crack the glass. So I wanted to make it period correct, so I had to make the screen, which you'll see in the next picture. So there you have it, guys. That's the completed product. So you can see from the very first picture to this, and probably 50 or 60 different pictures in between that I didn't add to this particular pictorial video. But it was a long process. It probably took me 100 hours to restore this pump. And of course, trying to figure out how to get around these particular problems, like with the hood and with the base. But you know, if you put a lot into it, you get a lot out of it. If you don't put much into it, you don't get much out of it. So I just wanted you to see what you could do when you take something that's just totally ready for the boneyard. It can still be resurrected. So if you see something, you know, that not so much valuable, but at least sentimentally, you know, valuable, or even historically valuable, it's worth restoring. You know, a lot of children come up today, even a lot of young adults would never ever have seen a pump like this. And I mean, so many people have been in the shop wanting to get their picture taken with this pump. I don't own this pump anymore. I sold the pump because it was too big to stay in our shop, and I was afraid it was going to get damaged, and it went to a really good home, to a good collector. I very seldom sell parts of my personal collection, but in this case I did. And I'm glad I did, to tell you the truth. But in the meantime, guys, this video is getting up there, so what we'll do is we'll do another video on my Kubota mod and the ice resurfacer on the next video. That way I can keep all of this editing and all of these voiceovers in control, because I'm telling you, it's crazy. It takes crazy amount of time to do it. So I hope you've enjoyed this. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask them, and I'll try to answer them as accurately as possible. Again, the only reason why I'm showing you this is because I didn't do videos at the time that I was doing these restorations. So it's an opportunity for upcoming collectors and restorers to maybe get a little bit of information out of it. And if it helps you out, well, that's great. That's what it's all about. Anyway, guys, I'm going to take off. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. And we really appreciate your comments. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And give us the thumbs up if you like our videos. So in the meantime, guys, take care. Tomorrow is Friday, so we're going to have a weekend coming. Be safe out there. Take care of yourself. Be good to others. And God bless.